I've decided I want to do another on Claude Code. So I've been using it now maybe for a week or so, week or two, and I'm still just continuously blown away with how powerful a tool it is. I began by starting off by using the API credits just to get my foot in the water and then sort of understand how the tool worked. And I was a bit skeptical at first because until then I'd just been using this sort of traditional approach of going to ChatGPT, asking for maybe a bit of code, maybe pasting in a snippet here and there to iterate and refine and get new code generated, and I would copy and paste that back between the IDE. But I heard a lot of buzz about Claude Code, and I decided, you know what, I'll give it a try. So spun up an API account, installed the tool, and dropped it into my project. And within minutes, I had it up and running. And I started giving it small tasks to complete. I was like, okay, here it can kind of complete uh, longer running pieces of work with relatively simple commands. So um, essentially, after that, I was sold after giving it some more and more features, and I went for the max account. So I think it's the £100 a month subscription, and yeah, essentially now I'm using it every day to implement features that would have taken me weeks to implement within hours, and it's completely wild. And I'll give an example. I've been working on an app for about the past year or so. It's a it's a map that transcribes voice memos and then generates memories um to basically, yeah, it's essentially like an AI voice journal, but I developed it as a progressive web app because I hadn't had the skills in developing mobile apps until then. So the whole project I've been working for the past year and a half implementing this as a progressive web app. So I had the React code base, and then I dropped I decided, you know what, I'm gonna this needs to be an app, a native app. So I wanted to migrate the project to React Native, and I thought, you know what, let's now that Claude Code's out, let's give it a try and see how this would work. And just like out of sheer curiosity, I decided to just ask Claude Code to convert the React app into React Native app. And there are some tricks you can use with Claude Code to make it perform better for long running and complex tasks. One is using something called ultra think mode, which was something I've seen on Reddit. And essentially what you do is you, in the prompt, when you ask Claude to complete the task, you say use ultra think mode to complete the task and plan the task, etc. And what it does is it activates a long running thinking mode. I forget the exact implementation, but behind the scenes, it does something that makes it use more compute resources in terms of planning and thinking and exploring, etc. Um, Also, having it generate a plan, a complex, detailed plan before it goes ahead and implements, is a really good way of understanding and getting it to do exactly what you want it to do, before doing it. Anyway, sorry, if I digress. The point being is I asked it to implement basically convert the whole React code base to React Native in one shot. And I went away for 10 minutes. It was chugging away, and came back, and it had created a whole React Native project and converted all the components. It hadn't done the whole thing in one shot, but it converted about 80% of the progressive web app into a React Native app, and the app itself looked way better than the original version. And at that point, I was like, "Oh my god, this is just next level." So I'm completely sold on Claude Code now. I use it every day to develop features. I've done, yeah, like I say, things that would have taken me a week to do before using LLMs now take me hours with Claude Code. And the velocity in which I can produce features from my app and make progress is just astonishing. So yeah, I'm going to continue to use this, and my plan is to launch my app soon. So Claude Code is a big help for that. And I want to learn how to leverage this tool a lot more. So I feel like I've only scratched the surface of it. I understand it is very, very powerful in what it does, but there are there are ways in which I am now the bottleneck. So I will tell it to implement a feature, and then I'll spend some time, maybe 10 minutes going using planning mode to generate a plan, and then I'll kick it off. But then I'm sort of idling, waiting for that task to be finished. And I think there's certain things that you can do with Git work trees so that you could have the agent spin up a feature branch on a dedicated work tree, then have that agent work on that branch. Will then you can then continue either implementing more features with more agents or working on things while that runs in the background. And that's I've not quite figured out a workflow on how to do that smoothly yet. Um, so I mean, right now I'm just sort of in execution mode. I'm like, get as many features implemented in this app as possible. But at some point, I want to kind of sit back and learn at a meta level the best practices on how to use this tool, how to best leverage existing tools like Git in order to optimize the workflow to get the most work done, and um, loads of other things like memory things I know exist, but I haven't quite learned how to leverage them properly yet. Like a claude.md file, each project can have its own claude.md file, which is essentially a project-specific instruction file, which gets injected in the system prompt of the Claude Code agents when you load it up, and it gives you a lot of information about the project and stuff that you can store. So it's a persistent memory and instructions on how Claude should operate in your code base. I need to implement that in my projects, but I haven't yet. And then there's also MCP servers, which I'm hearing a lot of buzz about, and I can see the utility in using in MCP servers and Claude Code. Again, not something I've delved into yet. But the first one that I'd like to do, which I've seen again, I think it was on a Reddit post, was someone had implemented a Gemini MCP server into Claude Code, and then essentially gave Claude instructions to consult the Gemini model when it encountered a difficult problem within the code base. And I thought that was quite interesting because it then allows you to introduce diversity into the agent process, and things that may have otherwise got stuck in a sort of local minimum or maximum, whatever way you want to look at it, could then be broken out of by consulting another language model with a completely different set of training weights that could then suggest potentially a better or more diverse solution that um, the Claude models otherwise wouldn't have been able to see. And then you could extrapolate that to other language models as well. So it could be, you could have an agent for Gemini, you could have an agent for OpenAI, and you could have different variants of models. So for like something sort of like a simple consultant task, it could maybe go to GPT 4.0. But if you wanted it to, really reason, you could then delegate that to an O3 model. And these could all be set up through MCP servers so that Claude picks the best level of expertise depending on the challenges of the task that it's facing. And yeah, I like the idea of that. And eventually I like the idea of integrating these Claude agents into teams so that I don't have to sit in an IDE and manage them. And I think that maybe a little bit far away from that yet, but I can definitely see a future in which I have Microsoft Teams on my phone and I go on, and then I've got groups and I've got individual people that are essentially agents in my organization. So I could either message or phone one of my Claude developers to get progress on a running task, or that agent could then message me via Teams to ask for guidance on how to progress for a next step. Things like that. All these integrations, I think, are things that will become possible in the future and I'm really excited for. So you could essentially have a virtualized dev team or organization that are all agents, but are integrated into develop existing organization tools like Microsoft Teams. And I think that's super exciting. I look forward to that. So yeah, it's just a really just an update to share my thoughts and experiences on Claude Code now that I've been using it for a couple of weeks. And yeah, I'm super excited to see one, how the tool develops and progresses, but also figure out ways in which I can use it to enhance my capabilities and improve my leverage when it comes to developing software, because I think that's what it's all about. It's about maximizing your time, maximizing your sort of capabilities, and offloading as much cognitive effort and labor as possible so that you can focus on things that are really you can add value for. Yeah.